Hello, my name's Colin Crithers, and I'm a student reporter and broadcaster at the University of Iowa. As a journalist, my job is to tell stories, while also balancing everything else going on in my life as a student. But no one tells our stories. So, my goal is to tell the stories of the student journalists, broadcasters, and storytellers all across the country. Let's walk the student beat.
Welcome in. Today we're walking the student beat with none other than AJ Reisetter. AJ, thanks for joining me here today.
Dude, I'm honored that I get to be on this show. I've been watching you do this since it first started, and I watched Chris's episode a few days ago before, so I could fully be prepared for this. And I was like, dude, this is sweet that you've been doing this now for over almost 30 episodes. Like, it's kind of crazy. So I appreciate you having me on, man.
Absolutely. It's a lot of fun. I mean, getting to talk to everyone, whether it's the people I've already known or the new people that have joined on the show. Everyone's been a lot of fun. And then obviously you're no different. But for the people that do not know you, like I do, go ahead and give a little bit of a background to yourself, what you do, and the journalistic outlets you've worked with.
Yeah, well, it's about to be a lot different
Yeah. It's
because I
about to
just
be.
graduated from the University of Iowa. Yeah, it's gonna be drastically different. But yeah, I just finished up 4 years at the University of Iowa. Um, it's been a long journey. Freshman year, I dove right in with DITV, KRUI radio, Big Ten Plus. I worked a couple of seasons with the Iowa Heartlanders, all working with all those different organizations in different ways. Obviously, with DITV, I was a sports reporter. I was lucky enough to do sports right when I got there, with Michael Merrick and Max von Grease and the whole crew freshman year. And I can't go, especially a whole podcast episode, without talking about Michael and Max and how important of an influence they were, and we'll probably get into that later. But I started off at DITV as a sports reporter, worked my way up to digital liaison my sophomore year, and then was the sports director for a semester my junior year. And then with KRUI radio, obviously jumped right in. My very first football game as a student at the University of Iowa, I got to go to the press box with Michael and Max and work KRUI radio. I wasn't on the call, but the second game I was. My second ever game at Iowa, I was on the call. My first one, I was just getting my feet underneath me, checking out the stadium, shaking hands with all of the beat reporters up there. Like, I still remember that first game because John Leo and David Eichel came into our press box, and I was like, this is sweet. Like, I'm meeting everybody right out the gates. And sure enough, Michael, Max, David, John, we've all been friends since then. But started right away with Kerry Y and obviously continued to call games all the way through. Big Ten Plus. You know the story better than anybody, but my freshman year, we walked in, there were maybe 6 to 10 of us on a consistent basis. And we were in a back hall closet trying to produce games. And the fact that we now have a industry level three industry level production rooms now in my senior year, and we have almost 50 people working there. It's insane the amount of growth we've had from year one to year four. Um, and I got to see it from all those different stages and all the different people that it took to build that. Bryce Waddell obviously being probably the biggest one, taking us from that back hall closet to the studios we're in now. But even guys like Ryan Miksch and I actually don't know if I'm saying his last name right, but he works at Barstool now. He doesn't need me to say his last name right. He's big time. He's got plenty of people that are doing amazing things with him, and he's doing great. But also like him, Ruben and Coy, and so many of the OGs from that time. We were putting together shows that are not good, but we thought were great at that time because that's all we knew and it's all we had. But that was Big Ten Plus, and then the Iowa Heartlanders I did for 2 seasons. I was a broadcast assistant. Technically, I was an intern, but David Fine didn't want me to use the intern label because that's got the red tape on it. So he said, just call yourself my production or my broadcast assistant. I'm like, sweet, I can do that. But I basically wrote press releases, cut together highlight reels, ran the Twitter quite a bit. And what also my second main role, other than writing the post game press releases, was being the intermission reporter. So every intermission, I would hop on the radio with David and talk about stats and scores around the league, and we would just chop it up for intermission time and have a good time. So those were the first four things I got into. Then I got into dance marathon, which has absolutely nothing to do with sports, but I made it mean something to sports, especially this last year, introducing the program to. Well, I shouldn't say introducing. They had relationships with the athletics department in the past, but they kind of fallen to the wayside. So this year I worked really hard to get us back in the athletic scene. We hosted a men's basketball game. It was all dance marathon themed. We had videos on the video board. We had a lot of the kiddos come down to the court and play games. We did that again later on in the year. We had a lot of our graphics playing on the video board all season for all the different sports. Like that was one of the big goals I had. So yeah, dance marathon, and again, I'm sure we'll dive into all these things. But those were some of the big things that I did. I also hopped on the NBC Sports like student content creator train. I really only did it for a year. They asked me to do a second year. I said yes, but I didn't actually produce anything, which is I hate to admit on here, but I didn't do anything my second year with it. I had a story and I had filmed everything for it. I just never put it together because it got away from me. But two of my favorite multimedia packages that I did in my 4 years at Iowa, I did for NBC Sports and have honestly probably led to my job now that I just signed on to, and I'm starting at the time we're recording this next week. I'll be a sports multimedia journalist at KGAN Iowa News Now in Cedar Rapids. I don't know if I'm actually allowed to announce that on socials or anything, but I'm just gonna tell you that's where I'm going, and I'm going there next week. So,
Hey, if you need me to cut that, I will. But
yeah, I'll let you know. But I'm sure we're fine. But like,
we're
yeah.
good. We're good. No, we're definitely going to talk about all of this. I want to ask you real quick though, first, that first football game. Was
Mhm.
that the Nevada football game or was that
That
what game was
was
that?
It was the South Dakota State
It
game.
was that
So
one.
the Nevada game was the second
That
one.
was the set. Okay.
That was my second ever football game at Iowa. I was on the call, and yeah, we were there for 2 days,
Oh, you
basically.
have told me that story about that being your first call. Go ahead.
Yep. But the South Dakota State game, it's funny because Mark Gronowski was on the team, and Jack Campbell, who I've gotten to become really good friends with his cousin, um, sacked Gronowski in the end zone for basically the only 2 points that we got in that game. And then fast forward to my senior year, I'm calling Mark Gronowski, throw a bunch of touchdowns, run for even more touchdowns, it felt like, in my final year. So my first game, I was calling him getting sacked. Well, I wasn't calling him, but I was up there for when he got sacked in the end zone. In my final year, I was watching him run into that same end zone, but scoring points for us again.
And not now no longer getting sacked, right?
Yeah,
Oh my God.
now he's on his feet getting 6 instead of 2 for us.
Oh my God. It was such a fun year with Mark Gronowski at QB. People are gonna remember that for so long.
Yeah.
Just being able to win like the ReliaQuest Bowl is super
Mhm.
cool. The season they did with the gauntlet of a schedule they had. Yeah, I don't think we can forget Mark Gronowski for a long time.
They were the best four-loss team. I'm not going to say ever, but they were the best four-loss team this last year. And if they'd even won one of those games, whether it be Iowa State, Indiana, Oregon, USC, I think they probably would have had a chance to sneak in. Be I just
They're
because
sniffing it.
everybody knew, like the committee knew, all the if you, all the gurus on ESPN, they knew that Iowa was the best four-loss team, and that would have been such a cool way to go out. I mean, Aiden and I, we were thinking about going down to the bowl game, but Aiden had plans to go travel. I mean, you know how he is. He travels the
Yeah.
world all the time. So we didn't end up going. Um, but he said if we would have made it to the college football playoffs, he would have said, "Sorry, fam, not going on the winter break trip, going to the college football playoffs." And what a way that would have been to go out for at least, I mean, obviously for the football team, but also for us as seniors of being a little selfish with that. But we were like, dude, that would have been so cool because we called so many games together and to be able to do that. But we ended up getting our NCAA championship experience at the end with going down to Houston.
Yeah, you guys got your get back there with the NCAA tournament. When the Iowa men's basketball team, I'm sure everyone listening should know this story, but in case you don't, made upset Florida in the round of 32, made it to the Sweet 16 down in Houston, and you and Aiden with KRUI said, "We're gonna make this happen."
Okay, buckle up for this, okay? Because there are a lot of sections to the story that
Is
I think,
buckle up almost a little bit of a pun as well for where this is going?
yes, yes, it is. Because this was probably one of the wildest weeks of my 4 years. And I've had some wild weeks there where I'm covering like 7 games in 5 days or whatever. Like, I've got plenty of those stories, but this one was nuts. So Iowa played in the first 2 rounds of the NCAA tournament over spring break.
Mm.
So I was in Aruba with my girlfriend and her family, my first time ever out of the country. And I was like, okay, I'm going on this trip. Like, I can't, I'm going to try and watch these games, but I'm going to enjoy spring break. Like, this is going to be a good time. We're in Aruba. It's, sandy beaches, perfectly blue water. Like, I'm going to enjoy my time here. And I'm not going to stress about work or anything. But when the Hawks are on, I'm going to try and find a TV and I'm going to turn on the Hawkeyes. Wasn't really able to do that for game one, but I kind of had a good feeling about that one. I think we all kind of had a good feeling about that first game. But that was probably towards the back end of our trip to Aruba. Now, fast forward, we fly back from Aruba. I don't remember what day it was. I think it was Sunday. Let's just
Is
say.
it the
Let's
same
say it
day
was
as the
a
game?
Yeah, it was
It's
same day
Sunday,
as the game.
yeah.
So yeah, it was Sunday. We fly back to Aruba, and right as we land, Iowa and Florida is tipping off. So right as we hit the runway, I turn my phone on, get off of airplane mode, and I turn on the game. I've got a quad box on my little phone watching all these games. And my girlfriend Lena is like, "What are you doing? We just landed. Can you just relax? Like, we're not even off the runway yet." It's like, "No, I got to be locked." Turn on the game on my phone. And I'm like watching it as we're walking through the airport, trying to find, where to get our bags, still locked. We're trying to find the car, still locked. We're driving, we're about to get onto the interstate, and it's late in the game now. Like, there's a minute left in the game. I'm freaking out. I'm like, there's no way we're about to pull this off. But keep in mind, we're in a car. Everybody's like half asleep because we just got off the plane. It's pitch black out, and my girlfriend's mom is driving, and I'm right behind her. The driver's seat's here. I'm right behind her in the passenger seat. I'm watching the game, and I'm like, it's starting to get intense. I'm like, okay, I can't scream because that's going to freak everybody out and we're going to get in a car accident. So I have to keep I have to keep my emotions in a little bit, keep my reactions to myself so that we don't get in a car accident. But then Fulgaris hit that shot. When I tell you I was getting screamed at and I had no idea because I was shaking the car. I grabbed my girlfriend's arm. I was like, oh my gosh. And apparently I was like punching the ceiling. I might have punched like the front seat with my girlfriend's mom in it. And my girlfriend's mom is like, AJ, what the F are you doing? Like, you're never allowed to watch games again because the whole car is shaking as we're getting on the interstate. And I had no idea because my earbuds in, silence, and I'm just freaking out because I'm like, oh my gosh, we're about to go to the Sweet 16. Like, it's happening right in front of me. And yeah, girlfriend's family was not happy with me. But that's how I found out that we're going to Sweet 16. But keep in mind, at this time, Aiden and I still had no idea that we could even go. That was not on the table. I was like, I think one of my friends asked, like, hey, you're gonna go call the Sweet 16? I was like, there's no way. There's no way they're gonna let us. It's a national broadcast. The university's not gonna pay for us to go get a flight down there. Like, it's not gonna happen. The next morning, right after I said that, the next morning, Aiden calls me and said, hey man, I threw our names into the hat to get press passes and we got them. And I'm like, are we allowed to call a game? And he's like, I put down radio, so I assume we can. So he called up Brad, and he was like, Brad Schultz for Hawkeye Roundtable was driving down to Houston, and Aiden's like, can we hop on with you? We'll help pay for gas and a hotel, and we'll just go with you. And Brad's like, let's do it. So within what, not even 12 hours, Fulgaris hits the shot, and we're all of a sudden taking a trip to Houston. So I'm like, crap, I've been working games for Big Ten Plus, and I got to find a way to take them off. So I think Brad and Aiden left for Houston on Monday or Tuesday. I want to say it was,
I think they left Tuesday.
I think they left Tuesday, but I had a doubleheader for softball, and I didn't want to screw over Deke, who was our boss at Big Ten Plus, basically.
Daddy.
I didn't want to screw him over because I was already going to be taking off all the weekend games, which happened to be, baseball and softball going at the same time. And baseball was playing Iowa UCLA. So obviously that was going to be a big series. But I had also told Learfield that I could call the Iowa Washington softball games. So I was originally scheduled to call two softball games for Learfield and Sunday's baseball game against UCLA. I had to call all of them and say, hey, sorry, I'm going to Houston. But I didn't want to screw over Tuesday, so I called the doubleheader on Tuesday and then bought a one-way ticket to Houston. And so I flew to Houston on Wednesday, met up with Aiden and Brad and you guys there. We got food and everything, and while I was in the air, I was on my connecting flight to Houston. Aiden texts me and he says, "Hey man, James Allen, the men's basketball SID, just said we might not get to call the games tomorrow." I was like, "What do you mean? I just bought a one-way ticket to Houston. We're all down here. What do you mean we're not going to be able to call the game?" And he's like, "I don't know." That's all he told me. So I start calling and texting got all my people that are down there. I texted Colby Calvert. He is one of the managers for the men's basketball team. I texted Gary Dolphin, the voice of the Hawkeyes, because I knew he was already down there. And I was like, I don't know what's going on, but if there's anything that you guys can do to help us get on the air or at least figure out why we can't be on the air, help us out. So Colby, the men's basketball manager, is talking to James Allen and trying to find some NCAA people. Gary Dolphin calls me and he's like, AJ, what'd you get yourself into? And I'm trying to explain the whole process, and Dolph is taking my side on it, thankfully. And he's like, AJ, I don't care what it takes. Like, if you can find me some names of NCAA people, like, I'll get in touch with them. But if for some reason that doesn't work, we're gonna get Beth Getz involved. And I was like, all right, if worst comes to worst, we're getting the athletics director involved to try and figure out how we can call the game. Thankfully, Aiden was able to find emails for like basically all the NCAA people that were working the tournament, and almost all of them actually got back to us, which was crazy. And we got the papers to sign and say, hey, we're not gonna cuss or anything. Like, we understand this is all Westwood One owned, so we basically signed away the right to be able to post any of our own highlights and things like that. Um, and a bunch of other things probably. We didn't really read it that close. We were just like, as long as we get to call the game, that's fine. So we signed it, whatever. But one of the people Aiden happened to reach out to was the person running the March Madness social media pages. And the guy reached back out. He's like, hey, since you guys are student radio, if you have any, if anything exciting happens, Send us your reactions, and maybe we'll put you on the March Madness social media pages." And we're like, "Holy crap,
That
that's
works.
crazy." I was like, based like out of all this negative stuff and all the stress of almost not being able to call the games, we might get posted on the March Madness social media pages. So, anyways, we are able to call the game. We go to the game. We're calling Iowa, Nebraska. All these fun things are happening, and the people behind us, we meet the people directly behind us. They're Iowa fans. They're great. Um, and we call the game, and sure enough, Iowa beats Nebraska. We're going to the freaking Elite Eight, and we're like, holy crap, we need to send our reactions into March Madness to try and get them on socials. So we cut up our videos real fast and our highlights and our reactions, send them off to March Madness. And sure enough, that night they emailed us back and said, "All right, we're gonna post you 9 a.m. tomorrow." And I remember waking up, me and Aiden both woke up super early because we were so excited. We were sitting in the hotel breakfast area. I don't even know if we actually got food. I think we were just sitting there waiting for 9 o'clock to hit. And right when 9 o'clock hit, our phones just started going off. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, everything. We were getting tagged in everything. People are liking, commenting, texting us like, "Holy crap, I just saw you on the March Madness Instagram page." And we had our 2 minutes of fame on the March Madness socials because we almost didn't get to call the tournament, even though we had flown all the way down there. So that was absolutely crazy. And then getting to call the Elite Eight, like once in a lifetime experience. The fact that we were even there was crazy. Unfortunately, didn't go our way, but man, was it fun. Man, it was being able to talk to. I mean, I know you had gotten a lot more chances to talk to the team throughout the year, but because I wasn't a part of DITV anymore, I am not in those media scrums and those media days and press conferences as much anymore. So that was really kind of my first chance to talk to Bennett and Coach McCollum and Alvaro Fulgaris, and yeah, that it was fun to be able to talk to them in that setting and get to know them. And yeah, it was a crazy week and a half, from almost getting into a car accident after flying back from Aruba to almost not calling the games at all, even though we'd already flown down there, to then having 2 minutes of fame on socials.
And it's an amazing clip too. Like it's a lot of fun, and I'll probably put it in this.
Catch finds Fulgaris all the way down the court. He gets fouled and one. Fulgaris, the octopus, 3 for Iowa. 3 for Iowa.
Are you kidding me? How is he so wide open?
40 left. Finds Combs. Combs finds Sage. Sage elevates and grabs it. There's 35 left to play. It's Fulgaris. He slams it down. Fulgaris. Exclamation point on this game. A poster for history. Dotch gets it into Sturts. Sturts will dribble it out. 1-0 Iowa. Dream on. Your Hawkeyes are going to the Elite Eight for the first time since 1987. They shock the Nebraska Cornhuskers in the Battle of the Midwest.
Dream on, baby. The Hawkeyes aren't done dreaming yet. Are you kidding me?
I can't believe this.
Pinch me, Wurtsy.
I will pinch you. I'll pinch myself.
And I've shared this part of this like podcast a few times now of like they are great. Like that team was so good to be around. Like sure they were winning, but like they were so easy to talk to, fun guys, and they made that experience a lot more fun than like you could even imagine. Like an Elite Eight run's already mind blowing, but being with that team as well, and then also the group of people we were around was a lot of fun. But I think your story kind of just shows the grit of like student journalism. Like it was student radio with us at least. It's not the same at every school, but we have a little bit of funding here and there, but there was no funding for that trip whatsoever. We're just used to like we're gonna make it happen one way or another.
Yeah, everything from the plane ticket. I got a plane ticket because I had to call those two softball games. But Brad and Aiden drove both ways. The gas, the plane ticket, the hotel, the food, everything was out of our own pocket. We didn't get reimbursed for any of it. The radio station didn't pay for any of it. The funny part, on top of the whole idea of even going to the men's Sweet 16 and Elite Eight, is that Aiden and I had actually reached out to the School of Journalism to send us to the Sweet 16 and Elite Eight for the women's team because we expected them to go there.
Yeah.
And they said, no, it's not in our budget. So we were like, okay, so that means we're not going to the Sweet 16 this year because we didn't think that the men's team was going to go. But then the men's team went, and we knew we weren't going to get any funding from the university or from the radio station. And we were like, we're going to do it ourselves anyway. We're just going to go. And thankfully, it wasn't too ungodly expensive. And thankfully, my parents are the people they are, and they were able to help pay for a plane ticket. Um, but yeah, everything was out of pocket. And me and Aiden talked to Kevin Harlan, one of the greatest voices ever in sports broadcasting, and he said, "Yeah, man, that's the life of being a student journalist and trying to do these things at a young age. Like you're gonna have to pay your way to some of these great tournaments, but you're gonna remember those moments forever. Like these are the moments that you're gonna talk about when you're old. Yeah, when you are making millions of dollars doing this stuff, that's great." But these nitty gritty stories, those are the ones that you're going to tell your kids when you grow up. Those are the ones that you're going to hold on to forever, even when you get dementia. Like, these are the ones you're going to remember forever.
I mean, we're still talking about it now. We're going to talk about it in 50 years. Like, I think most episodes since that point, I've brought it up, like, or it's been brought up on this show. And it's almost like, oh my gosh, we need to hear it again. But how can you not bring it up? It was the best story from March this past year. One of the best stories. I don't know if I should say the best, but it was one of the best. And then, yeah, you just get to meet so many good people along the way as well, like Kevin Harlan. I know our team met a lot of other like reporters and a few other broadcasters. And that's the nice thing with March Madness. It's almost like a mini networking event.
No, it literally was. And all the beat reporters and local reporters were there. There even I correct me if I'm wrong, but I think there were some French reporters there covering like
I think
that
you're right. Yeah.
like there were people from all over the place, and it wasn't quite to the magnitude of when we were covering Caitlin Clark. I mean that was the
That's
press
a
conferences
whole
were
other thing.
filled to the brim. Press conferences were not like that, but they for this tournament. But there were still a ton of reporters there, a ton of other student journalists and reporters there. One of my good buddies, Bobby, for Nebraska, he got to call the game for Nebraska student radio down there. And it was cool just to catch up with him because me and Aiden actually had met him from over the summer when we were in Spearfish because he was working and calling games for one of our rivals in that league. So it was fun to catch up with him. But yeah, it was just like all these people, and three of the teams there were, well, no, yeah, three of the teams there were Big Ten schools. So they were all kind of familiar faces when we went there and we're like, hey, we're all here together, and we were all able to catch up and meet some of the other reporters, and yeah, it was yeah, like you said, it was once in a lifetime and something we'll remember forever. Like it was just it's you can't make it up.
100% worth it. I think what, it was a 15-hour drive between Iowa City and Houston. Is that right?
Something like that. I don't even remember. It didn't feel that bad since we had Aiden and Brad in the car, so it wasn't. And we got to stop at Bucky's, which
Uh,
Brad was very high on, and it delivered. It absolutely delivered. So, yeah, that trip, it was probably around a 15-hour drive. It felt more like seven. Like it did not feel like it was a 15-hour drive. We were just having so much fun.
yeah, I could imagine. And Bucky's is obviously like you have to stop there at least once in your life.
Oh
I
yeah.
also bring up that most people don't know. I figured I got to start telling more people about this. Is that the I-80, the world's largest truck stop, is even better, obviously. I'm definitely not biased whatsoever to the fact that I passed by it a few times a semester.
Yeah.
But
No, the thing I've been in there only once. But that thing also delivers.
it's
It is huge. It
it's
is.
a place of all time.
It's got like four buildings in it. I'm just like, oh, how?
Yeah,
How is this a truck stop?
it's a whole well, maybe like you're able to stop there and technically you can get a haircut, you can go to the dentistry there, like you can do about 90 million different things within this
Yeah.
one truck stop, which I guess makes sense when you think about like truckers and everything, and like, all right, this is your stop. You're on the road constantly. This is your chance to do some of this. But it's definitely weird to walk in for your first time, and be like, look up and just see all of that.
Yeah. We should be getting NIL money from the truck stop since we're
Hmm.
talking it up.
You're giving me an idea. I might reach out soon, but
Get some sponsors for your podcast, man.
I know that's next up. That's that's the next plan for this, actually. Ironically
Do it.
enough, we'll reach out. No free promos. So the world's
Good.
largest truck stop is actually kind of mid and not
Here,
great.
I'll do this so that Nike can sponsor.
I got it right
They
here.
have they
I'm
have
not
to
being,
they have to pay for the swoosh to be on here.
yeah, but yeah, I'll just hold this like this the whole time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
I got this going. It's all good. But we've mentioned a lot of your experiences, obviously. We talked about the football games and obviously probably the coolest experience ever with the March Madness run. Want to talk Big Ten Plus real quick. You mentioned the growth and you talked about it pretty well, but if you want to dive into like what that looks like for someone that might be listening to their first episode here, like what is Big Ten Plus? What's it do for students and like the growth that happened at Iowa?
Yeah, outside of student journalism, like with the DI, Big Ten Plus is probably the best all-around experience you can get for someone who wants to do not even just sports broadcasting, but working in sports
Yeah.
in general because of all the different things you can do. Granted, yes, so Big Ten Plus in its essence is the subscription streaming service for the Big Ten Network, which of course is owned by Fox. And rather than hiring a bunch of freelancers to do it, they allow students to not just call the games, but produce the games, direct the games, run the cameras, put together the graphics, the replays, everything. I mean, from top to bottom, it is student run. All the production, all the shows are student run. Um, so it's when I first got there in my freshman year, like I said, there were 6 to 10 of us in this back hall closet. We had like one TV. We had zero comms with our cameras or with our announcers. We were on like a 45-second delay, like all these things. It was like I can't describe how bad of a production room it was. But we thought, and again, so me coming from, my high school and me and my dad were the ones that built the production stuff for our high school. And now it's grown into even more than that. It was incredible because I was like, oh my gosh, I have never seen like this big of a switcher board. I've never put together like a score bug on this computer. And the computer was literally, hold on, I'm grabbing this for scale. The computer was literally the size of this box. It was probably even a little bit deeper than this box. Like it was massive. Um, but that's what we were working with year one. And we learned everything. I think I maybe called 2 or 3 games that year for Big Ten Plus because we didn't have the staff to even allow for students to broadcast games. I mean, Michael and Max did some because they were seniors. But everything else, I had to learn replay. I punched, the switcher board. There was punching cameras, ran cameras. I was running, graphics, scorebug. Like you had to learn everything because we had so few staff. Like no one was specialized in one thing. We all just did everything. And the producer, director, and TD were one position, which that's how it was for a couple of years until Bryce said, "Hey, you know that those 3 positions are supposed to be split up, right?" And we were like, "What?" We had no idea. We just thought that they were all the person who was producing, directing, and TDing was all supposed to be one person. Um, but yeah, that's kind of how we started off freshman year, and then my sophomore year, Bryce came in, and Bryce didn't come in until I want to say about a month into the season. And it was me and Noah who were really the only returners that were there every day. Hayden Hawksmeyer, uh, I I think he came on. He came on my freshman year, and was doing a lot of stuff. But early on sophomore year, it was kind of me and Noah running the show for almost everything. We were TDing, setting everything up, and just trying to at least get the games on like people's phones so that people could at least watch volleyball. But then Bryce came in and just put up all these new fancy things and we started to recruit more, and it just completely changed the game. And then he started talking about a new studio. I was like, holy crap, we're gonna get a new studio? Like, it can get better than this? Little did I know that we were probably in one of the worst studios in the Big Ten Conference, because I started to learn more about other Big Ten Plus programs within Big Ten country, and I was like, "Holy crap! Yeah, we're very far behind, program wise, and not just studio wise, but also student wise." Because we weren't recruiting. We didn't have a really strong relationship with the journalism school. We didn't have a very strong relationship with the athletics department. So I was like, okay, well, I can help out with both of those because with DITV and KRUI and then add on Big Ten Plus, I was able to make really good relationships with all the sports information directors at Iowa. And before that, there was basically no relationship between the SIDs and Big Ten Plus. So I started working my magic there, started talking to them, doing more stories for DITV, which then translated to, okay, the SIDs trust us more to actually broadcast these games because especially men's basketball, Fran McCaffrey hated us. And, he did not like it when his team was on Big Ten Plus and there was a student calling it. He didn't want that. He did not and he didn't give us the time of day for to talk to him or any of the players either because he didn't like us. But once I started to work that relationship with the SIDs, then they were able to put in a good word for us to the coaches. Then they started being more willing for us to come to practices. Dave Diani for women's soccer was one of the first coaches I really had a good relationship with because I covered women's soccer for DITV my freshman year. But the SIDs and the coaches then started to warm up to me, and then I'd go to their, practices. I started setting up meetings with them junior year. And then I was like, hey, I'm not the only broadcaster at Big Ten Plus. So I started trying to help out some of the other guys. Colin, I didn't really have to help you out much because you also had those similar relationships. But for some of the other younger guys that were getting into it, I was like, hey, these are the SIDs. This is how you get a hold of them. This is how you talk to them. This is how you talk to a coach. This is how you talk to a player. This is how you ask questions. And it from freshman year to now, like there was no relationship between Big Ten Plus students and the coaches and the SIDs to now almost every broadcaster has been reaching out, not just to Iowa SIDs and coaches for meetings, but to other schools as well to be more prepared for those games. And it's made our broadcast so much better because we're not just walking in on game day like, all right, who are we playing? Now we know at least who we're playing before we walk in. And now we've got a lot of, good information on the athletes and the coaches in the program before we walk in. So I think that was one of the big things that I felt I did to help move the program forward. And then also I, for free, would present in classes talking about Big Ten Plus and Dance Marathon, trying to recruit. And a lot of people I've come to found out actually joined Big Ten Plus this year because I did those. Like Brady Cruz, he told me that, yeah, hey man, you came to one of my SRM classes with Packy. You talked about Big Ten Plus, and I joined because of that. I was like, dude, I had no idea you were in that class because I didn't know you at the time.
Yeah.
But like Megan and Karch, they came to one of my, I guess, seminars. It wasn't really a seminar. It's more like a talk in the student center. Me and Emma went up there, and whoever showed up like learned about Big Ten Plus. But that's how Karch and Megan got involved. Um, I think my junior year, I went and talked to an SRM program. I think that's how Ella joined, Ella Rafe, is she learned about it from that. So I don't know. I was one of the biggest promoters for Big Ten Plus, I felt like, because I was just going into classrooms talking about it without anyone asking me to do it. I just knew that we needed more people. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go recruit. I'm gonna make a little, slideshow, and I'm gonna go into these classrooms with these professors that I trust and try and recruit some people. So hopefully that answered your question about Big
No,
Ten Plus.
absolutely.
There's a crap ton of stuff you can do. And I know other schools have like their ESPN Plus programs. If you go to a Power Four program that isn't a Big Ten school, but at least at Iowa, I can speak, and you can as well, at how many different opportunities there are to get involved. But you got to be willing to do it, and you kind of got to, you got to force yourself into the room and make yourself known. Otherwise, you're gonna get walked over.
Yeah, I mean, what I was at lunch or before, you're making me miss all these people by naming them all off. We're on summer break right now. They're all so great. I miss them. But I was at lunch with like Chris and like Aiden and a few of the guys, and someone was asking us about like what we do or whatever, like while we're all in sports journalism, and they're like, oh my brother wants to get into this. Or like, what's the biggest thing? And immediately Chris went, you just gotta love it. Like you really gotta love it because it's a lot of effort, it's a lot of work, but if you love it, you're going to be enjoying what you do. You're probably not going to be feeling like it's work. Like I don't usually walk in and feel like, oh, I'm at work. I'm just kind of like, oh, I'm at Big Ten today, or oh, today I'm doing something for DITV or KRUI. But there are a lot of opportunities. And my biggest thing that I've always told people is like, when I think back to my high school start, is do it for yourself. Like make the start yourself. Because getting into like our broadcast club, um, I remember my very first few broadcasts, I did nothing. Like I was basketball season. I couldn't get in there in the football season. They were kind of like, oh, we don't have the numbers right now. So you like kind of just don't have anything for you. I joined for basketball season. And my first 3 days I was there, they would broadcast the freshman, JV, and varsity games. And I just sat there not doing anything because they're like, we don't have anything for you to do. So I kind of just sat there, watched, and tried to pick things up. Then I was like, all right, how can I get myself a little bit of a start without someone telling me? And I just
Mhm.
started making the worst graphics you've ever seen in your life. I opened up PowerPoint, started splashing some stuff together, but it was eventually like 3 or 4 times of doing it. They're like, "Hey, why don't we share these on our socials as well, so we have more content?" And then boom, they knew my name, and from
Yeah.
that point, it snowballed into, "All right, maybe you try out this role, and then you try out that role." And it's the same thing at Iowa, like you were mentioning.
Yeah, well, and Colin, they might have been the worst graphics ever, but you did what we try and tell a lot of people that want to get into this. You just gotta kind of force yourself into the room, and that's what you did. Like you said, okay, I'm not getting offered, to call these games right away, but if I can do something else to then get my name out there and in front of these people, and because that also shows that you're willing to take initiative, which you absolutely have to do, especially early on. Like everything is an opportunity at the start. You are not going to be handed anything. Like unless you start taking initiative and be like, hey, this is what I can do, and come up with some ideas too. Like I tell people all the time, whether it was for my short stint as the sports director at DITV or even as the creative director for Dance Marathon, I was like, just because I'm the director doesn't mean I don't want you to come up with ideas. I want you to come to me with an idea and I want you to run with it. Like I always said, especially as a creative director for Dance Marathon, I was like, I'm the person who just has to say okay, and I'm the communicator between the other directors and my team. Everything else is like, okay, if you have an idea, go for it. Like I'm rarely gonna say no. Like very rarely am I gonna say no, especially if you have an idea that I think is gonna be that we all think, because it's not like they're just pitching it to me. I'm like, pitch it to everybody. And if they can get behind it and you have a plan to actually execute it, let's freaking do it, man. I mean, with Dance Marathon, I kept saying we need to get in front of the athletics department. We need to have stuff on the video boards. Like that's where Iowa's biggest audience is. And people kept telling me, no, no, like it's impossible. It's like a million hoops to jump through. Like you'll never get done. So I said, okay, I'm just going to go around them. And I knew people in the athletics department, and I went around to the head of the marketing team, and he's like, dude, what we should have been doing this years ago. I'm like, that's what I've been saying. So sure enough, we hop on one Zoom call and we come up with all these ideas to host a men's basketball game, have all these graphics and videos going up on all these different video boards across campus. And that it was one Zoom call and he was on board. And I was like, okay. And I didn't even tell my advisor, like my boss, technically for Dance Marathon. She's my advisor, and I'm technically supposed to go through her for everything. I didn't. I did not tell her I was doing this. And I get back in, I go to one of my first meetings with her, and I said, Yeah, so we're gonna be hosting a men's basketball game in the winter, and we're gonna have all these videos and graphics playing at all these video boards at every athletics facility. And she's like, "What?" And I was like, "I understand that everyone in the past 3 years has told me no, that I can't do this. But I got one yes from the person who's at the top, who makes those decisions for the athletics department, and he said yes. So we're gonna do this." And she's like, "All right, whatever." And she kind of was like, "She's like, I'm gonna be hands off on this. This is on you." And we got it done. And now, that kind of just goes back to taking initiative, and because that's what's gonna get you opportunities in the sports world or in any industry at that, and for that matter, is by taking initiative, coming up with ideas, and being like, let's freaking do this thing. And that's going to get you noticed. I mean, that you've done it, Colin, a lot. I mean, I remember your freshman year coming in and you had all this experience, and Michael and myself and Max were like, okay, that's great. What can he do though? Let's see him in the field. And sure enough, you went out there and started doing stories, and you were confident, you were anchoring right away, and we were like, this dude's a stud. He doesn't. We don't need to baby him. Let's just get him in and let's see. Let's just let him go. And like you took advantage of all those opportunities, and now you're not just the sports director at DITV. Now you're the sports director at KRUI. You got all these fancy deals with the Cedar Rapids Colonels. You're big time at Big Ten Plus. Like you took advantage of the opportunity and ran with it, which I think is something everybody who wants to learn about anything can take a page out of your book from.
I appreciate it. It means a lot. And yeah, I mean, it's just about being a self-starter. I apologize about the kernels being a little late for you
Yeah,
there.
yeah, you son of a.
Because I want to like go back to a conversation I was having with Braden Shank of Virginia Tech, and this is kind of how I worked into like the email conversations with them. KRUI Student Radio is now going to partner up for those listening, where the Cedar Rapids Kernels will be able to get some reps there. Our games won't be live, but we'll be able to play them in full once it's complete. But it's more reps over the summer when Iowa athletics isn't going on. So it's a great deal. You get work with a professional baseball team. And he was like, yeah, Virginia Tech, he's the play-by-play voice for the Salem Ridgejacks, which is the high A affiliate for the Boston Red Sox, right? Um, and he was like, yeah, there's a pipeline, like they only hire students at Virginia Tech for this like role. And it's
Wow.
weird because I'll go around and every other place that I'm at, like in the division and conference and or league or whatever, they're all like pros working their way up. This is the only team that does it this way. So they've built this relationship over years. So I was like, huh. So that's when I like was working in with the Colonels, like, hey, what if we start building this relationship, even if it's just like this, with the University of Iowa, and because other programs are starting to do it, why not try it ourselves? And they were like, why not? This is awesome.
So did you talk to Calvin about that,
Yeah,
or
I thought the Calvin.
okay, yeah, because I've been emailing Calvin about trying to get a cup of coffee because I'm like, just because I'm not there anymore doesn't mean I don't want to learn more about the Colonels.
Exactly. Well, you'll be up in Cedar Rapids.
Yeah, I'll be up in Cedar Rapids, so I haven't asked Calvin this yet, but I'm gonna ask if I can hop on a few calls with him.
Why not? Hell yeah. Um, I mean, I guess down in Cedar Rapids where you're at right now up in Minnesota. But
Yeah,
real
damn.
quick, I want to dive into some dance marathon stuff in a second. But I want to tell a little bit more of your story because we were just talking about high school, talking about, oh, doing every position in one, like at Big Ten. Like that was my thing in high school. I was producer, director, TD. But your high school broadcast experience is very unique and very, I think, fun to talk about. And I think I'll just let you take it away from here.
Okay, yeah, I've told this story a million times, it
Yeah.
feels like, and it's kind of funny because now I am at home in Minnesota, and my dad's already been asking me to help him out. But long story short, I started at the local radio station here in Northfield, Minnesota, at KYMN Radio. My dad was the head salesperson there. And at the time, my sophomore year, the sports guy at the radio station had stepped down. So there's an opening. My dad threw out the crazy idea about AJ, how about you try and pitch an idea to take over as the sports guy? I was like, dude, I'm a sophomore in high school. What can I provide? I thought he was crazy, but he's like, just ask. So I went into the owners of the radio station's office and said, "Hey, I've got an idea. Since I'm a student at the high school, I know all the athletes. What if I had my own show on the radio station where I would sit down with basically my friends, but also talk about all of the sports going on at my high school?" And he loved it, and because I had easy access and it was like good content. It was basically a shorter podcast talking about high school sports in the area. So he let me do it. I did that sophomore all the way through my senior year. That's how I got my start. And as I continued to get better with the show, our guy who was doing play-by-play for high school football, he was like, "Hey man, like I need help. I can't keep doing this by myself." Like, and at the time, I think it was the beginning of COVID, so we were sitting outside the press box, and he asked me to start hopping on. I'd never called games before that. This was my first true experience like on a headset calling a game. I was terrible. I didn't know a lot about football at the time because I didn't play football growing up. I was a baseball guy. I ran track. I was on the swim team. I was on the cross country ski team. All these, I was on like basically every sport except for football and basketball, which is kind of funny considering where I am now. Um, but I started calling games with him, and then my dad and I saw an opportunity to build a business because we were doing everything on the radio, but what if we did live streams, video live streams? So we started just, with the equipment we already had and some little camcorder. We started doing these live streams um, through the radio station's website, and we were getting a ton of views. Like people loved it, and all of a sudden we were like, hey, we can start charging more for ads because it's radio, and now we're also live streaming. So my dad and I were like, we could build a business off of this. So eventually we kind of broke away from the radio station and did our own thing. And we started with my high school. Now we have a crap ton of equipment. This a bunch of roadcasters and cameras and tripods and all these different things, and we started live streaming football, baseball, basketball, softball, ultimate frisbee, lacrosse, like soccer, all these sports for my high school. And obviously for me, since it's me and my dad running the business, I called all the games. I call every game that I wasn't participating in myself, like because if I had a track meet, obviously I wasn't going to call a game. But every time there's a game that I wasn't competing in myself, I was calling it. So that was a ton of reps I got for myself. But then we also started recruiting other students to do it. So it started to become a thing. We didn't have like an actual class or anything with the high school, but we started having students start to learn the behind the scenes production, how to call games and all these different things. Fast forward 4 years, I'm graduating from the University of Iowa. My dad, since then, has gotten five more schools on board because all the neighboring schools want the same thing. They want the same relationship, and especially because the cool part with our business, the business plan, is that all the live streams are free. There's no paywall. We make money based off the advertising we do. And there's a whole other like back end to it where we help them with socials and their website and stuff. But or I shouldn't say we, my dad sells these ad packages to all these local businesses. We're not going out and getting like 3M or Target or anything. We're targeting the local businesses because they're the ones who are more invested in the high school sports. So we are selling these ad packages to these local businesses. That's how we're making all of our money. So not only are we helping out these high schools, um, with live streaming their high school sports, then we're also helping the schools build better connections with the local businesses in their own town. So it was a win-win for everybody. Plus, we're making money off the advertising and putting that money right back into the business to buy more equipment. But this upcoming fall, my dad said we're adding five more schools. So we're about to double in size. So we're about to have 10 schools that we're doing all these live streams for. And he's currently working on actually building the high school version of the Big Ten network. And I've been trying to explain to him how the Big Ten network works so that like he's not trying to go to 10 different schools games all the time. But it's been really cool to see him build that and to say that I was a part of the first version of it, help kickstart it in its early days. And it's yeah, it's really it's a cool it was a cool way for me to start off in my career, being able to work with my dad and like having my dad be the one who started all those opportunities for me, and he was the one who was there by my side on my visit at Iowa when Angie Looney and Michael Merrick and Tim Looney were pitching me the idea of working at DITV, KRUI, and Big Ten Plus. So it was a very unique situation for me to step into, but also get literally hundreds of reps behind the mic before I even stepped foot on campus.
Yeah, just get all like there's so many different rules you saw off the bat. Just a little, I think it's so cool that there's a whole broadcast ecosystem right there up in Minnesota, between all those schools. I mean, it's insanely impressive to be able to get all those schools involved. And then obviously, I mean, you get all those reps, you walk into college, you're starting to get more reps. You could hear it through this, say, you articulate well, you're a great storyteller, and it translates, dance marathon. And you've already talked about the game, like the men's basketball game that was dance marathon night, which was a great event, was put on very well. I was on the call that night. I don't know if you remember for Big Ten
Yeah,
Plus
yeah,
with Jess Shuttles. Shout out to him.
yeah.
Um, well, I mean, I know we had like our signs were holding up like people that we wanted to like shout out for the game. But it's not only that you've been able to do, but I think the cool part translating like journalism over storytelling and your relationships and connections is getting the athletes on campus involved.
Yeah, that is something we started this past year. Like you said, combining my love for journalism and sports with my love for what Dance Marathon does. And for people that don't know what Dance Marathon is, it's a much bigger thing than just what it is at Iowa. But I mean, there's hundreds of thousands of colleges and high schools that have their own dance marathon. But Iowa, I think, is now probably entering top three, like one of the top three dance marathon programs in the entire country, especially with how much money we raised this last year. Um, but Dance Marathon, in its essence, is a student-run organization that raises money for the Stead Family Children's Hospital. But it's so much more than that because we provide not only financial support, but emotional support as well for the Dance Marathon families that are battling pediatric cancer. So we set up events year round for families to come down from the Children's Hospital or even families that are, I mean, we support families that are currently battling pediatric cancer, families that have had kids beat pediatric cancer, and families that have had kids who have passed away from pediatric cancer. We support all those families. And we put on these events for all these families to come and hang out with us. We volunteer at the Children's Hospital. That was probably the coolest thing I got to do this year was every week I got to go up to the Children's Hospital and hang out with kids up there and just try and give them a break from what they're going through because you can't it's so hard to explain to people who aren't in dance marathon and people who haven't met a family who's battling pediatric cancer what it's really like and I can't even imagine what it's like because I'm lucky enough to not have had people battle pediatric cancer um, but being there and meeting with them and talking with them has given me some sort of a sense of what it's like. But this year, in my creative director role, I really wanted to hammer home on the storytelling. Obviously, I'm a journalist. I want to hammer home on the storytelling. And we ended up going with our campaign with Every Story Matters. You could probably guess who came up with it. But everyone was on board with it and we were able to tell a lot of family stories. We would sit down with families and if and their kiddos and ask them about their experience battling pediatric cancer. And that was probably one of those interviews probably really helped. They have really helped shape me into a better journalist and a better question asker because it is incredibly hard to sit in front of a parent who has just lost a kid and ask them about that experience and ask them, what it was like when their kid passed away. It is so daunting and kind of scary because you don't know how they're going to react. You don't know what they're going to say, and you're emotional yourself because I mean, almost every one of those interviews was half an hour or longer and you're going through this journey with them talking about their kid that passed away, or if it's a happy ending, they beat it, that's a little bit different. But it's still hard to ask them, what was it like when you thought your kid was going to pass away? But having that experience for me personally not only gave me more perspective, but also helped me ask those harder questions. So that was one of the coolest things, and honestly, what has shaped why I want to actually continue to do this. Because the end all be all goal, I tell people this all the time, the end all be all goal is to be a play by play broadcaster for Fox, ESPN, CBS, whatever, and call some of the biggest games in the world. Call the World Series, call the Super Bowl. Like, that's the dream, right? That's every broadcaster's dream. But in its essence, we are all storytellers. And being able to tell those stories gave me a better appreciation and perspective on how important storytelling really is. And that's changed how I go about my broadcasting as well. I focus more on the stories rather than just the game that's in front of us. Yes, when it's the fourth quarter and there's a minute left, you better lock in, because that's the exciting part. That's the drama of sports. But throughout the game, you're telling the story of these players, this team, how they got there, why it matters that they're even playing this game. And it could even be an exhibition game. Guess what? There's a lot of things that's going on behind the scenes for Iowa, who's playing Ashland, that you need to share. And it's even more important to tell Ashland's story because they aren't on that stage a whole lot, and they've got a lot of really good stories. We sat there in those meetings with Ashland and learned about a lot of those athletes and their coaches, and they've all got great stories. So my experience with Dance Marathon really helped me have a new perspective on all those things. But it's also given me an opportunity to then connect the athletics department and the athletes with these pediatric families. So Iowa Athletics already has a really good relationship with the Stead Family Children's Hospital. Of course, they have the WAVE, but their ISAC program, which is their student athlete advisory board or something. I don't know what it actually stands for, but it's basically a lot of the student leaders from all the different sports. They come together and they make together this board, and they help connect the student athletes with the community and each other. And they already do a good job of going up to the Children's Hospital, volunteering, reading books. Zach Tweet and Will Ryan are two guys I've gotten to know really well and have helped tell their stories a little bit, that already do that a lot. But we wanted a chance to have the athletes get more involved with Dance Marathon, because that is the student group, and they are all student athletes that are helping the Children's Hospital. So this past year, I worked with Zach and Will, and we were able to put together and build a student group that allowed them to have their own individual fundraising pages through Dance Marathon, so that they could individually raise. So in the past, how we've gotten athletes involved is through Athlete Hour at the big event. That's still a very popular thing at the big event, our 24-hour event in February, where we celebrate the year and all the money we've raised. And for 1 hour in that 24-hour event, a ton of athletes from all the different sports will come and hang out with the kids. But then also they can fundraise through their ISAC page. But there's no like individual recognition for fundraising. It all just goes to this ISAC page. And we wanted a way to recognize the athletes that are actually fundraising, and it also is a little bit more of an incentive for them to fundraise, because you're looking at your own profile and seeing the numbers go up rather than just a team's page and the number going up. So Zach and Will, unfortunately, they were the only two athletes we were able to get to actually do this thing, because we were trying to find more ways to reach out. And a lot of the coaches now know that we're doing this, and I'm hoping that with the connections we were able to make this year, the Dance Marathon 33 team will have a better shot at getting more athletes involved. But Zach and Will fundraised a ton of money. Will Ryan ended up being our biggest fundraiser. I might be totally off. I think he raised over $15,000 himself. I mean, he raised a ton of money. But yeah, that was a relationship we started to build, and I reached out to a lot of coaches. I reached out to a lot of the players, including Kylie Fierbach, who was on the ISAC team, and she was starting to help me get involved a little bit more with the women's basketball team, which obviously they are a massive brand. So to have them be a part of Dance Marathon was a big goal. Unfortunately, we didn't get all the way to the point in which, the entire team was signed up for Dance Marathon, but I know that we put it in motion for that to be able to be a thing. So, in essence, another long answer to your question, we were able to combine this year's sports and dance marathon and have a better relationship, not just through promotion and all the venues, but also with the athletes individually themselves, for them to individually fundraise, use their connections with businesses and their NIL deals to put it all to a good cause and help them out as well. Just get connected with the community.
Yeah, I mean, journalism isn't just like it's the storytelling, obviously, but it's those relationships that I think help facilitate some of those stories. Like some of the ones that I've told, like based on the relationship I have with,
Mhm.
whoever I'm talking to can help build up that story or the information you get. So I think those are really important. Obviously, the work that Dance Marathon does is extremely important, extremely well done. It's beautiful stuff, and obviously it'll be linked for people to check out as
Yeah.
well. But I mean, we've talked about so many different experiences, right? So many things that you've partaken in at Iowa. When in your story did you realize you fell in love with sports journalism, sports broadcasting? Was it during high school when you first started getting on the radio? Was it before that? When did you realize, yeah, this is my thing?
That's a good question.
It's a hard one.
It is because I think I've had a lot of different, instances where I've fallen in love with it because it's a grueling industry. You are going to be overworked. You are going to burn out. Like there's no like stopping it.
No way around
At
it.
least, no, there's no way around it. Like people always say you have to have a balance so you don't burn out. There, it's very hard to avoid burnout in this industry because it's a constant, especially now. Everyone wants a constant wall of content. That's what everybody wants. And guess what? Most TV stations don't make a ton of money. And people are still going to demand a wall of content. So you're going to be worked to build that wall of content. And you're not going to make a whole lot of money off of it. But if you love it, then it's not going to feel like work. And hopefully that pushes the burn off a little bit further down the road than people who don't love it as much. Um, I think early on, like I fell in love with the idea of sports media probably like in elementary school. If I'm being honest. Obviously, we all grow up wanting to be athletes, but even early on, I was in elementary school and I was like, man, it'd be really cool to, call games or write stories. And I think that was the first seed of me wanting to do all this. Um, Another time I fell in love was when I probably later on in high school when me and my dad started calling all these games and I started telling all these stories of my friends. And I even got to tell my own story because I qualified for state my senior year. So I interviewed myself. Um, but probably sometime in there, I don't remember an exact moment by any means. But there was one time I got to reconnect with some of my former cross country teammates, and I interviewed them because they were off doing incredible, crazy things. Like there's one, especially her name's Katie Brust. I haven't actually talked to her in a long time, but if you look her up on social media, she has probably one of the craziest lives you'll ever see. One week she's skiing down a mountain, and the next week she's getting awarded for a piece of art that's being hung in a museum. And the next week she's like practicing law. I'm like, what are you doing? I did a Google search of her recently, and I was like, how is this even possible that you're doing all these things? But she was one I got to reconnect because of my show in high school. And it was like a 2 hour long conversation with her and one of her friends that we ran cross country with. I think that was one time where I fell back in love with it. Um, Early on, freshman year, I got to work with Big Noon Kickoff. That was a crazy cool experience being around, Urban Meyer and I'm blanking on the host's name, but He hosts Big Noon Kickoff. For some reason, I'm blanking on his name. But I got to meet him, talk to him, and all the production people behind the scenes were so nice, and I got really close with them. It was that was another time where I was like, "Holy crap, did I make the right decision? Like this is awesome." Um, Another time when I found out my voice was in the Caitlin Clark docu-series for ESPN, the Full Court Press, episode one, towards the very end, me and Hayden Hawksmeyer, our voices are used in the docu-series to call the game. That was another time I was like, holy crap, like this is big time, this is real, and I love it. I want to do it again. Let's keep doing it. Um, there's just been so many instances, but I think one of the absolute coolest things that I should say two. Another one was this last summer in Spearfish. Was not getting paid a lot. We were in the we were in Spearfish, South Dakota, and if you know where Spearfish, South Dakota is, I tip your hat to you. I had no idea where it was, but I signed on for it and I convinced Aiden Wertz to come along with me because I was like it was my dream to be able to have an internship with him and get to call games an entire summer with him. So the fact that I convinced him to do it, I was like, let's go. But that summer, we had some of the best experiences of our lives. We talk about it every time we hang out. Between, hanging out with the interns and staying up until the sun rises, having a good time, to being able to tell the stories of all those athletes. And I got to know a lot of them. Like, I consider all of them really good friends of mine now. But I would have their parents come to the games and come to the press box and like thank us. I had the families were sending us fan mail, like legitimately. Like I had one of the pitchers' grandmas bought me like a T-shirt from her hometown's like minor league baseball team. She wrote me a letter. One guy, his dad used to pitch in the minor leagues, and he mailed me a deck of baseball cards of his team's like minor league team when they went undefeated. But we had families coming up and asking us to sign things. Like we felt like we were celebrities, but all the families would say the same thing and be like, "Thank you for telling my son's story." And the fans in Spearfish would come up and say, "We have never felt so close to a team because of how well you're telling these stories. We feel like we know these guys, even though we're just watching them on our TV at home." Though those stories from those families made me realize how important it is to do this line of work because you never know who is listening in. And we told some very serious stories over the summer. We didn't keep we were talking about there was one kid who goes to Air Force. He was only allowed to be in Spearfish for like a week or two, and then he had to go back and get ready for boot camp. We would tell a story. There was one kid who was very open about his battle with his mental health and almost committing suicide. And we talked about that, and he was very open about it. And that became a theme throughout the year of talking about mental health because later on Ben Zobrist came to visit, which was a crazy experience, meeting the 2016 World Series MVP and getting to interview him in Spearfish, South Dakota. Are you kidding me? But he does a lot of work with mental health. That's what he does now that he's retired. And rather than asking about his World Series ring that he brought along and, the 2016 World Series, I asked him about his work with mental health. We touched on all those different topics throughout the summer, and people bought into it. They were very entertained by it, and they got a lot out of it. So that was a cool experience. There was one time that it was funny. One of the star players, his name is Kyle Finn. He was the league MVP. He hit like over 500, broke the home run record. Like it was insane. His mom came up to me in the press box and said that his sister absolutely adored me and thought I was like this super cool guy. Pretty sure she said that she thought I was cute. I was like, pump the brakes. Hold on a minute.
Hold up.
I was like, pump the brakes here. I told my girlfriend that. She thought it was hilarious. But yeah, just like hearing all those stories, then at the end being able to win a championship. We're going back out in July to get our championship rings. It'll be a good time, little reunion with the team and some of the interns. But I think that summer also just was a falling in love with the industry again moment over 3 months, I guess. I mean, there are a lot of moments in there that I probably fell back in love with it, but understanding like the importance of what we were doing and those stories that we were sharing and getting to do it with, one of my best friends in college, Aiden Wirtz, like I was like, this is what, this line of work is supposed to be about. This is what we're supposed to be doing. And I've continued to chase that feeling. That's why I'm going to Cedar Rapids to do local TV. I'm like, if I can tell those types of stories again and have that kind of reaction from a community, I'll do it a million times over. And I would love to do it. I mean, I would do it for free if I could. But unfortunately, there's bills to pay. I got to put a roof over our heads. So I can't do it for free, but I would 100% do it for free over and over if I could.
Absolutely. I mean, it's just so much fun. It's so fulfilling to be able to tell someone's story and know that they appreciate like what you've been able to do with it. It's not just like, oh, like thanks for like, talking to us. Sometimes you get a response of like, no, you told the full story the way that we need to be represented, and we appreciate you for that so people can know who we are. And I think I don't know, it's just such a fulfilling feeling. And I don't know, it's just beautiful with journalism and what we can do. It's not just like, local TV professional level. It's students that do it with broadcasts, with TV, with radio. So like, I mean, I asked this to everyone, and I think it's an echo, probably what we've just been talking about a little bit, but when someone looks from the outside in, they don't know maybe even too much about journalism. My essence is, why is student journalism so important? Like, why should I pay attention to student journalism? And I mean, we just talked about a few things there, but in your words, why is student journalism so important for just in general?
Well, it's a different perspective, right? Um, we are in the classroom with a lot of these athletes. We're going through the same stuff that they are a lot of times. Granted, we're not on the football field with 70,000 people cheering and yelling at us, but outside of that, we are in the classroom with them. We kind of have a sense of who they are outside of the sport. So I think that's just a cool perspective, that we're kind of walking along the same timeline as them, granted doing two very different things. But, they're growing up, we're growing up, we're going to the same classes, we're eating, we're going to the same dining hall. At least for me, I lived in Peterson, so I was living in the same dorms as a lot of the guys. Um, but we have a different perspective on it. And I think that's a cool thing that we get to show, is that other side of it, and asking some of those questions of, hey, how was your environmental science project, how's that going? And people find that interesting. More and more people want to know the behind the scenes of what's going on, and we have a chance to share that and be, hey, Caleb Johnson was in my business class today and he didn't show up for his project. Granted, you're probably not going to share that part of a story, but we have that background.
Yeah.
But I think that's just another reason to support it and pay attention to it, is that we do have that different perspective on it. Um, and also, we're all learning, and all of us we're the future storytellers of America. So if you're not bought into what we're trying to do and you aren't helping us along, well, good luck getting any stories told in the future. Because we're the ones that are going to be the ones doing it. The timeline keeps moving. It doesn't stop just because you like one person telling stories. Eventually, they're going to retire, and it's going to be us taking over. Um, so I think there's a lot of reasons to be invested in student journalism. We have different perspectives. We're the future. And I think all of us, we also understand where storytelling is going. Storytelling has changed a lot since we've gotten to college. I mean, AI is trying to tell stories. They're not doing it nearly as well, but people think that they can. People think that AI can tell a story better than the journalist. Well, guess what? AI wasn't there. They didn't see the coach of some wrestling team rip off his shirt in protest. That was a story that Wayne told us when at the Olympics. But AI can't write that story and add emotion to it. So I think the fact that we're in this space and we understand the digital side of it as well and how to do the multimedia storytelling, we've learned that, we're doing it, we grew up with it. I think it's important for people to invest in it because, like Chris said in his episode, the truth matters. The truth matters, and AI can give you, the X's and O's and what happened, but only we can provide that emotion and share that emotion of what really happened. And talk about, Kirk Ferentz crying after he learned that Jack Campbell's grandpa passed away, and he didn't tell Jack when he went out and played. That happened my freshman year. And I now am, closer with that family because I know his cousin really well through Dance Marathon. Um, but that was a massive story, is that Jack Campbell had no idea that his grandpa had passed away earlier that weekend. But Kirk knew, and he had to hold that in for the entire game. And after they beat Kentucky in the Music City Bowl, he hugged Jack and was sobbing. Granted, him and Jack had a very good relationship, but also underneath that, Kirk knew that his grandpa had just passed away, and Jack had no idea. And Kirk was gonna have to go to the locker room and break that news to him. That kind of emotion and being able to see it happen live, AI can't write that. AI can't write that type of emotion. Um, we can though, and I think that's really important for people not just to support student journalism, but journalism in general. Um, so yeah, invest in it. It's here to stay, and it's important. And AI can take our job as much as people are going to try to make it.
Absolutely not. No, I mean, there's a reason I like, and I think it's important to ask everyone like that question of like, why student journalism is important because there's so many different reasons and ways that it's seen as important by people. So hearing all the different perspectives, I think, is really interesting. But yeah, I mean, that wall of content demanded everywhere, even at the student level. And there's those ways that, like, as a student, you can feel that emotion of balancing everything from school to your work to your life in general, like just day-to-day life. And you can see that through an athlete's eyes a little bit as well, the more you have those conversations. So I think you hit the nail on the head there with that. Before we close this thing out, I want you to give yourself a little bit of a self plug here. Give yourself a little bit of a shout out. Where can people find you and your work after they listen to this episode?
Well, I've got a portfolio website. It's just my name, ajreister.com. That's I've been trying to update it more and more with more of my work on there. I got a YouTube page, just my name, AJ Reister. I try to keep it simple. My Instagram is AJ Reister. But then once I get started June 1st with KGAN, you can look up Iowa News Now, and hopefully some of my stuff will start getting put up on there once I get started. But that's kind of what's next for me. So go check out my portfolio website. I need more clicks on there.
There. I'll make sure again everything will be linked wherever you're listening to this, whether it's YouTube, Apple Podcasts, or Spotify. You can find the links in the description of the episode as well for everything. But AJ, for everything we've talked about so many good reasons that, I mean, there's so many opportunities in student journalism. There's so many good experiences. There's reasons that it's important. If you were to talk to someone that was first starting out or go back and talk to yourself as you were starting out, what would be your one biggest piece of advice?
Don't, well, I shouldn't say that because everything's stressful, but don't be so hard on yourself. Someone asked me that last week as well, and I was like, I wish I wouldn't have been so hard on myself, because no matter what happens, like if you love what you do and you're persistent and you put yourself out there and you, like we said, you kind of gotta, put one foot in front of the other and throw yourself in there and take charge. But if you do those things, don't stress about that, the first job out of college, because the right one will find you. As long as you keep putting yourself out there, making connections and keeping up with those people, like you're gonna be fine. It might not be the most glamorous job right away. I mean, I was very stressed about my first job out of college. I was applying everywhere. Those general applications don't really do much. And Colin, you were actually the one who really made me realize that more than anything is sometimes you just got to cold call people. You just got to email them and say, hey, this is who I am, this is what I do, and here's some of my work. And that's how you're going to go get that job. But I wish I would have realized that earlier and I wasn't so stressed about my 4 years because I was always so stressed I wasn't doing enough, that I wasn't going to get those opportunities that I wanted. But if you are persistent and you put yourself out there and you kind of take charge and you're not waiting for somebody to hand you an opportunity, you go out there and make it known that you deserve it, you'll be fine. You will be fine. And ask a ton of questions, you'll learn, but you don't have to stress about it. Yes, it's stressful. Everything is stressful. I mean, sometimes waking up in the morning is stressful for me. I woke up like literally an hour before we were supposed to hop on and start this thing. I was stressed I was going to be late. But try not to, bury yourself in your own thoughts and your own negative, self-doubt. Trust yourself, love yourself, because it's going to come around, and whatever happens is what's supposed to happen. And sometimes people just need a reminder of that. You just got to remember that there's a plan. Somebody's got a plan for you. You just got to keep walking that walk, and you'll figure it out, man. You'll figure it out.
What I like to say is like it's gonna work out the way it's supposed to, and you're gonna make the most of it. As long as you're having fun with it, that's what matters. I mean, that's something I still tell myself. It's like, don't be so hard on myself. I think back to playing baseball and how hard I was on myself. Probably shouldn't have been that hard on myself. And now I think about, I shouldn't do that in journalism either.
Yep.
And that's
It's
when you
hard not
realize
to be hard on yourself.
it is. It is. It's hard because you're wanting to like, oh, I'm trying to make these leaps and jumps and improve and yada yada. I just realized when I'm the most loose, I'm having the most fun, and there's probably even the better calls or better stories that you put out.
100%. 100%.
Well, AJ, I appreciate you spending this time with me today here on the Student Beat. You have done so much and obviously left a mark, a major one, on the University of Iowa.
I appreciate it, man. And thank you for even doing this podcast. Like, it is really cool that you're doing this and giving all the student journalists a chance to tell their story. Because we're out there telling everyone's story, but someone's got to tell ours. I'm glad you're the one doing it.
Thank you so much again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this episode of The Student Beat. AJ has done so many amazing things and is an incredible storyteller, as I'm sure you can tell through this episode, so you'll definitely want to check out all the work that he has done. Now, if you want to stay up to date with all upcoming episodes of The Student Beat, make sure to follow the podcast on Twitter, Instagram, and TikTok at The Student Beat. We just walked The Student Beat. I'll see you next week for a brand new episode.